All mankind is of one author and is one volume. When one man dies, one chapter is not torn out of the book, but translated into a better language. Every chapter must be so translated. No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Any man's death diminishes me because I am involved to mankind. Therefore do not send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. In these statements made by the English Anglican priest and Baroque writer John Donne, from his writing published in 1624 entitled Devotions upon Emergent Occasions, a characteristic is emphasized which, in today's society, is becoming increasingly important due to the societal and cultural concern with the issues of age. Indeed, age and very advanced age is placed in an intergenerational perspective. And it is in this intergenerational perspective which occupies an increasingly important role with regard to age in the Federal Republic of Germany. The knowledge systems, the effective action strategies, the reflected life, stress and processing experiences of older people are seen as potential for future generations. This applies to the world of work just as it does to civil society. In the meantime, the world of work has recognized the special benefits which arise from the close collaboration between younger and older employees. Economic analysis shows that in the majority of production areas, mixed-age teams are significantly more successful than age-homogeneous teams, and even in civil society we can find numerous examples of the remarkable commitment of older people to their relationships with young people. A specific example of this are older people's sponsorships in the field of education, whereby older volunteers work to support educationally disadvantaged boys and girls with remarkable success. We at the Institute of Gerontology have introduced the terms Mitverantwortung, that is joint responsibility, and Generativität, that is generativity, in both national and international discourse to help make 3 points clear. Firstly, the necessity of being aware that advanced age should be integrated into an intergenerational perspective, and that it should be emphasized how close the relationship between the generations is, how productive and how significant precisely these relationships are for the human wealth in our society. Secondly, it is important to highlight that the motive for Mitverantwortung, or joint responsibility, which we understand to mean the active co-organizing of a public space, does not end at a particular age but persists throughout the entire lifespan. The different forms of joint responsibility may change during the course of a lifetime, but not the motive itself. This aspect is illustrated very well by the socio-emotional selectivity theory of age, whose core message is as follows. Aged people deliberately reduce their social network. They then concentrate on relationships where they can talk about their feelings and where they can take responsibility for other people. So, it is possible that the network concentrates on 4 or 5 people to whom the individual feels especially drawn and for whom he or she is happy to make an extra effort, that is, to take over responsibility. Such a concentration on fewer but subjectively significant relationships is, considering not only the limited physical resources but also the limited future lifetime, very important. Thirdly, it should be understood that particularly this generativity, that is the commitment towards working with and helping people of following generations, there is a possibility to experience über sich, hinaussein, translated, going beyond oneself, the transcendence of oneself and one's own life. It is particularly this experience which is important for overcoming the psychological demands and pressures of old age. A colleague of ours describes generativity as the expression of the desire for symbolic immortality. Symbolic immortality, however, should not be equated to narcissism, but with the longing to live on in the life, in the work of the following generations by having nurtured and supported their development. The interweaving of a joint responsibility with the responsibility, the self-responsibility, is very well illustrated in a statement of Lao Tzu in Tao Te Ching. That which has been firmly planted will not be turned out. That which is considered good will not escape. For those who give their memories to children and children's children, life does not stop. For those individuals who develop their person, their lives become true. For those who organize their families, their lives will be complete. For those who mold their communities, their lives will expand. For those who shape their country, their lives will be rich. And for those who form the world, their lives will be far-reaching. This emphasis on joint responsibility, on generativity, on going beyond oneself, these characteristics associated with age show us how very much the view of aging, and age in both our country and in an international context, is beginning to change. In this joint responsibility and generativity, the potential of age, there is a possible creative strength, such as those we encounter in the areas of cognition, emotion, personality, social relationships, and the dealing with psychological demands, develops or unfolds in a remarkable way. In 2002, the International Plan of Action on Aging was agreed at the General Assembly of the United Nations. In this plan of action, which we had prepared on behalf of the Secretary General of the United Nations, I myself was a member of the 15-member expert commissions who performed this task. We also emphasized the creative potential of age in intergenerational relationships. We highlighted how important it is to find a comprehensive productivity term which expressly considers and honors the contribution of older people to society's human wealth. We also emphasized this in national documents of policy advice, such as those from the Age Report Commission of the National Government of the Federal Republic of Germany. However, the potential in old age is just one aspect, albeit of great importance for correcting the image of age. A second aspect concerns the diversity of development in respect of the physical, cognitive, mental, and social development during the lifespan. We are to understand that the physical aging process is one of a continuous decline in the physical reserve capacity, which, above all, at advanced and even greater ages, leads to an increased vulnerability in respect of chronic illness and loss of functions. However, it is important to mention here that through prevention, health promotion, and training, we are able to substantially contribute to significantly delaying this vulnerability, a phenomenon which is described in the literature as a compression of mobility. Cognitive aging, however, follows other development laws. Here we observe that fluid intelligence, this is the ability to solve new kinds of problems, the conversion ability, and the speed of information processing, suffers a growing loss of skills with increasing age. At the same time, in crystallized intelligence, there is, right up to the advanced and highest ages, a continuous differentiation of knowledge systems and familiar problem-solving strategies. And these are also detectable just from an overview of a field of work. And it is these trends that form a significant basis for the creativity of people even at the most advanced age. Mental or psychological aging describes if people are not suffering from organic brain disease, from a depressive disorder or loneliness, a process of increasing psychological resilience, and in addition, a process of growing self-awareness, which we also describe as werden zu sich selbst, or finding yourself. This self-discovery is also an enrichment for other people, which is why we can absolutely see development potential in social aging. In addition, we must consider here that with increasing age, it's very important, the heterogeneity or variability within an age group also increases. In other words, the older we get, the more diverse we become, and the greater is the scatter around the average value. Incidentally, this applies to all the characteristics, physical, cognitive, emotional, and social. Furthermore, it is also applied to older people's financial situations. The diversity of financial resources is very pronounced in the group of older people. This finding is significant for our understanding of age, insofar as it provides evidence of the necessity of an individual approach to older people. An approach which expressly considers the biographical development of the individual in his or her influence on the aging process. In addition, we maintain that it is politically important to ensure that older people, each according to their specific resources, are motivated to make their strengths available in the service of society. With regard to financial resources, we would like to emphasize that those people who have greater financial resources do not avail themselves too fully of the spectrum of social security services, thus allowing the social security system to be in a position to increasingly assist those people whose financial resources are so low that they find themselves in a precarious material situation in life or even in poverty. Here we do actually have a form of redistribution, albeit moderate, within the group of older people in mind. This will gain in importance in the future insofar as we are expecting an increase in social inequality in the coming years. It is, when it comes to the issue of collective images of aging, also important to draw attention to vulnerability, especially in very old age. In the middle of the 9th decade of life, we can observe significant changes in the physical and cognitive parameters. which remind us of a morphological change of the whole organism, and this is accompanied by a growing vulnerability in terms of physical and organic brain disease. This does not mean that all these elderly people will suffer severe physical and cognitive losses. No, this generalization must be ruled out. However, the probability of such losses does detectably increase, and this can be deduced by the fact that in the 9th decade of life, chronic physical diseases, as well as the various forms of dementia, are significantly more likely. And what needs to be considered here is that it is precisely this advanced age which is showing a remarkable demographic dynamic. It is here that we are finding the steepest population growth. In our country, 5.5% of the population is older than 80 years of age. By the year 2040, it will be more than 12 or 13%. This means that we have to increasingly not just concern ourselves with vulnerability, but also the transience and finitude of human existence. We must find cultural forms of dealing with this borderline situation in order to support people in accepting these borders and to realize their self-designed potential in these borderline situations. A big social and cultural task, and indeed a political one. In discussions with our Federal Chancellor, Dr. Merkel, I was one of the coordinators of one of the democratic initiatives started by her. I have emphasized how important it is that the central political decision makers ask our society to show sensitivity to the vulnerability of those of an advanced age. I have also emphasized how, particularly in such borderline situations of increased vulnerability, respect for human dignity must be expressed, and that everything possible is done to ensure that no degradation of human dignity is allowed to take place. Above all, it is important that this human dignity can live, can be realized. And this is only possible in relationships with other people, in the encounters with others, in taking part. Precisely for this reason, it is so important for us to repeatedly reflect upon our images of old age. Above all, the vulnerability of age. We need to reflect upon our images of transience and finiteness, and against the background of this reflection, we should arrive at an affirmation of age, with age in its vulnerability too. Thomas Eliot, actually in the tradition of John Donne, expressed this aspect in his quartets in the following way. Old men ought to be explorers. Here and there does not matter. We must be still and still moving into another intensity for a further union, a deeper communion. Through the dark cold and the empty desolation, in my end is my beginning. Thank you so much for your attention.